what's your network marketing story? If you've been in 90 days or 50 years, you've got a story. What's your path, your journey? What does it look like to this point? How can you make sure that when your story is fully developed and told, that you can make sure that 2021 is an awesome chapter in your network marketing story? That's what we're going to talk about in this session of the MLM Success Podcast.
Welcome to the MLMsuccess.com podcast, the show designed to return the network marketing industry to its roots of personal growth, leadership development, and wisdom of the ages success principles. We share with you real success stories from real people that we hope will inspire and encourage you personally and help you progress forward in your business and your life. We believe if you build people, people will build the business. Now here is your host, who has been called the number one mind in network marketing, the MLM Prophet, network marketing virtual mentor, and a host of other names that we will not mention because this is a family show. Frankly, he's just a small-town guy that figured out that the real product in network marketing is people. Dale Calvert.
Hey, everybody, this is Dale Calvert. I'd like to welcome you to this session of the MLM Success Podcast. I hope you had a great week. Last night, I couldn't sleep, tossing, turning, and I did something I rarely do, but I usually will listen to sleep music or something at night. But I ended up just flipping on the TV and scrolling through, and I'm not sure if it was on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, but I ended up watching a movie that was phenomenal. I wanted to share that with you guys. The next time you think about complaining or griping, all you have to do is think back to this movie, and it's the epitome of what a positive attitude is really all about. It was phenomenal. It came out in 2015. It's called My All-American. My All-American. I think it was directed by the guy that did Hoosiers. You know, Jimmy Chitwood, Hoosiers. If you haven't seen that movie, that's another great one. I'll hit it, Coach. I'll hit it, Coach. Gives me chills thinking about it. He also directed Rudy, which is another phenomenal movie that I hope you've seen, just on the story of determination, persistence, having a dream. It was, both of those were just phenomenal movies. But this one I never had heard of, and I highly recommend it. It's called My All-American. So yesterday was the day that we had scheduled Dawn and I to do our end of year numbers, and we try to do our numbers at the end of every single month. We take a day and go through everything and look at website tracking and all of our different everything. We do it all. But as we were going through yesterday, and I realized, man, 2020 was a really good year for us. And as I started thinking about it, I realized that the question that I asked myself probably, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, how it had really made an impact on last year. And that question was, how can I increase my net worth by $5 million in 5 years, which is a crazy question, but it was very challenging. And again, I believe that, you know, what the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, and ask yourself questions that are so crazy and set such great goals that I heard a gentleman say one time, set goals so big that unless God himself intervenes, you're bound to fail. And my thought has always been, well, I'm not going to do much if God doesn't intervene, so might as well set up huge goals, think about huge goals. And that was the question I asked myself probably a couple of years ago. And how that one question that I seriously asked myself opened my mind up to an entire new line of thought, entirely different line of thought that led to acquiring 3 very profitable businesses last year and making some investments that I would have never done. It would have never happened if I hadn't asked myself that question a couple years earlier. And, you know, I've always said the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions that we ask ourselves and then answer them truthfully. But that one question led me to the point of liquidating all my network marketing websites, all my training materials, my intellectual property, and then and circled around right back to the decision to build a team again. And it's really crazy when I stop and think about that, how that one question kind of put me in one direction and led me back around. And, I realized during that time that I love building businesses. I mean, I just do. I love it, but I really love building teams, which I've said many times is the most challenging business model in the world is network marketing. In a traditional business, you have position power because you're able to hire people and fire people. But in network marketing, you're building a volunteer army. And that can only happen when you have the right opportunity at the right time in history, and you have systems that 27%ers can duplicate, that they're in place to help them grow and get what they want for joining the program to begin with. So let's talk about your network marketing story. My entire life, from the time I can remember, I've always been interested in people's stories. I can remember just a kid growing up in Stamping Ground, Kentucky, and wondering how Mr. Hall, John Hall, got into the grocery business, and how did Mr. and Miss Riddle end up in Stamping Ground, Kentucky, when they were originally from Illinois, and why did Mr. Cassidy decide he wanted to operate a funeral home? And I could go on and on and on, but I've always had an inquisitive mind about people, their stories, their background, where they came from, where they're going, where they're planning on going. And it's just fascinated me. So what's your network marketing story? And sincerely, I wish I could hear the story of everyone who ever hears this podcast, because I think every story I hear helps me to understand and confirm the predictability of human nature and the very predictable path to network marketing leadership and network marketing success. And every story I hear gives me insights that I hope will help me help other people that are on this same path, this same journey. And I think about, since we started this podcast and even before, all the fascinating people that I have run into over the years. And I immediately think about Asborn and Jens Lynn over in Norway, two awesome human beings that I love and respect, and so many interesting people. A lot of you heard Cliff Walker on this podcast from South Africa, as well as Will Zanders in Louisiana. Will Zander. By the way, Will, if you're listening, sorry about Kentucky. Finally is getting on track, I think, possibly. They beat LSU Saturday. Will's a big LSU fan. He's from Louisiana, but Kentucky won this weekend, 82-69. But I think about, Biola and Ben over in Australia, and Boris and Budapest, that I talked to yesterday on Facebook Messenger, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And I love that. The different people, the different stories, the different paths, and all the people that have come and gone out of my life over the years since I've been involved in network marketing. I think about Cindy out in Seattle, and, been around. We worked together for years on multiple different projects. And I'll also have to think about the people that get misdirected and off track, and how many people have come back to me over the years and say, Dale, man, I was plugged into what you were doing 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 18 years ago, and I got off track, which is predictable. The foo-foo dust, the interstate, get off the interstate. Let's see if we can find this shortcut. They get down the road and find out the bridge is out. But how many of those people eventually come back to wisdom of the ages principles that we try to share on this podcast, every single week? And I learned a long time ago that the choice is, for me, I can be frustrated or I can be fascinated. And quite frankly, it's one of my biggest challenges, frustration or fascination. And I do my best to stay fascinated with the decisions that other people make that are totally against wisdom of the ages principles. It is fascinating to me. And intellectually, I understand that the only person I can really impact is the one staring me back in the mirror, as with you. The person you can impact is the one staring you back in the mirror. And I do my best to live the philosophy, I'm going to take care of me for you and you take care of you for me. And I try to stay fascinated, and I try to always learn why people start in network marketing, why they stop, why some people just hang out and are satisfied in a social club type environment but not really progressing. Why some people just all of a sudden, break out and run hard. And why do some people never launch? And why do some people get into personal development and some people avoid it like the plague? It's interesting to me. The lack of personal development in many so-called leaders I probably have talked about. I'll never forget hearing this lady. They were interviewing her on a podcast and they asked her what her favorite books were. And she said, well, really, since college, I haven't been much of a reader. And some of the things that you hear, it's just mind blowing, and then I try to take these concepts and ideas and realities and try to put them into buzzwords that people that know me and will understand. When I use words like plateau and hurdles and the pendulum and funnels. And I was talking about funnels, 30 years ago. The whirlpool. A lot of you know what I'm saying when I talk about the whirlpool. And then I talk about the 4 beliefs and many more philosophies and concepts that I've attempted to communicate in order to help people understand where they are and move forward to get what they want. And the older I've become, the more I've realized that the quality of our life is in direct proportion to the quality of questions that we ask ourselves and then answer those questions truthfully. To thy own self be true. So again, I would ask you, what is your story up to this point in time in your network marketing journey, on your network marketing journey? I would ask you, if we were talking on the phone, I'd say, when did you get started in the profession? Where do you live? How did you get started with network marketing? How did you get started with the network marketing business model? And I can tell you that 85 to 90% of the people that get involved with network marketing are first exposed with a friend, coworker, family member, someone that they already know. That's where the odds are, and it's still where the odds are. Very few come in through cold market. Now, there's more all the time, but many times people get involved with network marketing with a friend, family member, and then what they end up doing, unfortunately, is just following the quote-unquote leader from deal to 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 deal, and they end up becoming social club members. So I like to find out how people get started. Why did they start? What were they looking for? What were their goals? What were their dreams when they started? It was like, I've said many times, I thought if I could make $100,000 a year and not have a boss, life couldn't be much better than that when I first started. And then I said, okay, what were your goals? And then how many of those goals have you accomplished? How many have you accomplished? Have you adjusted your goals and your dreams? And see, some of you that are young, you've been in and young, I say 3 years or less, well, Dale, I haven't accomplished much. And then I have to go back to this. And this is real important. You never ask how much you're earning, only what are you becoming? And that's from Jim Rohn. Now, if you've been around 3 years and you're not progressing, and you're not earning what you wish you were earning, and you're not becoming what you wish you were becoming, then it may be time to pivot. I'm just being as honest as I can be, because you don't want to end up one of these people 10, 12, 15 years hanging out in this industry and never progressing. And then I would ask you, have your goals diminished? Have you settled for less than you came here for? Or have they grown? And how long have you been involved in this profession? How many companies have you been with? And see, that's a real good indicator as well. That question, how many companies have you been with? You know, my first 30 years, I was with 3 companies in my first 30 years in this profession. And there's some people that have been in, 30 companies in their first 3 years. And that's an indication too of possibly they're looking for the foo-foo dust. There's a lot of indications, but, to thy own self be true. This is not about, it's about helping you become all you can become and really getting your mind focused on the proper things. And I would say, what's been your biggest challenge since you've been involved in network marketing? And this is such an interesting question. What's been your biggest challenge? Because people say, well, I haven't had the money to advertise. I haven't had the time. I've got kids. And my thought, and sometimes I'll say it, is what has really been your biggest challenge? Because a lot of times what people tell themselves is simply not true. Because there's people that have children and responsibilities with family that have built huge organizations. There's people that had no money to promote or advertise that have built huge organizations. Every excuse that people come up with, I can give them examples of people that have got beyond that. And here's what I've learned over the years. Usually what they're telling themselves is an excuse, but the real fundamental problem is fear. Fear of failure, fear of what somebody else is going to think about them, fear of loss. They might lose some money. They might, most people are too concerned about what somebody else is thinking about them, really. That's where a lot of the fear comes from. And then I like to ask questions like, if things worked out for you perfectly over the next 5 years in your business, what would it look like at the end of 5 years? That's a really good question for people to be thinking about. Where are you going? Where are you going towards? What are you working towards? And then with some people, I'll ask, have you attached, this is important, have you attached an emotion to that outcome? And then I'll ask, if things worked out perfectly for you and your business in 2021, I would ask everyone listening to this podcast, if things worked out perfectly for you in 2021, if this became a chapter on your journey that spoke volumes years from now, that this was a special year, what would that look like? What would that look like if 2021 was one of the best years ever in your life and in your career on this network marketing path/journey? And then the next question I would ask you to think about is, what determines how well your 2021 is going to be? What's going to make the difference for you this year? And, there's many things. And number one, and the 4 most important things I talk about, the 4 stars have to line up. And the sad but true truth is, for 95% of the people listening to this podcast, the 4 stars have not lined up. They've not lined up, but they're committed to their upline. They're committed to this. They're committed to that. They believe this. They believe that. And sometimes, belief is developed, and sometimes belief is not developed upon documented facts. It's developed on emotions. So if the 4 stars haven't lined up, that's the first thing that's got to happen for you to achieve your full upside potential in 2021. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's a training video. It's at MLMsuccess.com/4, and then followed by the word stars, STARS. I've talked about that in other sessions, so I'm not going to rehash that here. But what's going to determine what your 2021 looks like, and for many of you, I know the 4 stars have lined up. So what's going to determine what is the bottom line? And the bottom line, if the stars have lined up, the bottom line on what's going to determine your success this year and how this year looks, we talked about last week in session 2017. In session 217 in this podcast. And that question is, how many leads did I generate for my business today? Today. And that's the question you ask yourself at the end of every day. And so this is not when you start, this is where I want to go, and you start backing it down. Okay, this is where I want to be in 5 years. This is how I'm going to make this year awesome. But it starts with every single day. And, Helen Keller said life is to be lived as a magnificent adventure, not at all. And you got to think big. Think about, well, Dale, there's so much disruption in the world today. And I get that. I 1000% get that. And I had to come to some type of settlement of that in my own mind, in my own heart. And one of the things I've done this year, and I'm going to continue to do, is not watch the news. Just not going to watch it. There's no value there. I mean, there's only so much we can do. So I'm not watching the news. And then, I love the phrase, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're still going to be among the stars. So I've really clarified my business commitments, my focus, my determination, because I want to move forward and I want to help other people move forward. And I've always wanted to move forward, but I've taken everything to a different level this year. My business commitments, number 1 is our APL Go team, period. Number 2 is our Network Marketing Leadership Development Academy members. Number 3 is our MLM Training Club members. And I'm talking about my business commitments and my focus. And I have other businesses that I'm trying to get as much off of me as possible and eventually sell, which is a major change from where I was, not too long ago when I was going to liquidate all my network marketing assets. But it's APL Go team members, Network Marketing Leadership Development Academy members, Training Club members, all network marketers on this journey. They're trying to do it right and build something legit and long-term and make a huge impact on their family, all network marketers, and then all entrepreneurial-minded people who are attempting to build their dream instead of somebody else's dream, whatever they're doing. And I have relatives and nieces and nephews and people that are involved in different businesses, and I try to support them every way I possibly can. Most of the people that I work with in network marketing, whether they're training club members or not training club members as much as Network Marketing Leadership Development Academy members and our APL Go team members, I can tell you what their top reasons are. I can tell you what their number 1 reason is. Because how can I help somebody get what they want if I don't know where it is, what it is? How can you? How can you? I know that I wouldn't be talking to you today. I would have never made it in this profession. I know when I first started, if I hadn't set the goal to create a $5,000 a month income so I could get out of IBM, I wanted to take my family to Hawaii someday, and I wanted to know how it would feel to drive a brand new car, and the company I was with at the time had a bonus car program. And those were my top 3. But over the years, I've gone through multiple 20 reason sheets, multiple over the years. And it's real interesting because I can go back and look at some of them, and it's interesting because I believe in that concept. Until you know why, the how doesn't matter. And I'm also have been very blessed to have a full understanding of the huge trap that there is when your reality so far surpasses your wildest dreams. I understand that trap as well. You know, when someone starts out in this profession, if I can make $100,000 a year and have no boss, and then you're making 3 times that a month, and there was nobody that helped me there, nobody that prepared me for that. And it was not easy to navigate. But I have learned now, looking back, and I did a podcast about this, I don't know, not too long ago, the last 90 days or so, I think, about the real goal is not to become a millionaire. I think everybody should strive to become a millionaire, as Jim Rohn said, not for the money, but for the person you'll have to become in the process. So I think it's a worthy goal for sure, but the goal is really not even a millionaire, because once you get there, then what? The goal is just to increase your net worth in this game. And again, I got into details about that in the previous podcast. So I'd ask you, what is your top 3 reasons, and what's the one reason that's really driving you? What is the reason that's driving you? And I know a lot of people listening, you want to buy your first home. You want to pay off your first home. You want to pay off your existing home. You have grandkids in college, that you want to support. You might want to go full time in the ministry. I know I have a couple people, that's their goal. Some people just say, Dale, I just want to leave a legacy for my kids. Several people, they will tell me, I want to retire my husband. Several people that have told me that. Some others want to get their wife out of their job, pay off their parents' home, buy a certain kind of automobile that they've always dreamed about. Many want to quit their job, and the list goes on and on and on. Everybody here is here for different reasons. Everybody listening to this podcast is involved in network marketing for different reasons. And here's what I want you to understand. This is important. This is really important. This is the key concept that I'm trying to communicate on this podcast. So don't miss it. Your reasons must become your dreams. Now, let me say that again. Your reasons must become your dreams. Dreams have a lot of emotion attached to them. All success is created in your mind first. Napoleon Hill told us what the mind can conceive and believe we can achieve. And I'll give you an example of this. I've probably shared it before on this podcast. I know I've shared it at different live events over the years. But when I decided that I needed to get to $5,000 a month so I could get out of IBM way back in 1980, about 1983, I really, really got serious about programming my mind for success. And, I got still into subliminal audios and self-talk and how your mind is really programmed, and how we're all programmed at birth with fight, flight, or fear, and a lot of things you guys have heard me talk about many, many years. And I went to the dollar store. I got one of my bonus checks, and it was the first one that was over $3,000. So I was halfway to my goal, over halfway. And I went to the dollar store and I bought 5 alarm clocks. The kind some of you remember, you're as old as I am, where you wound it up every night and it tick, 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 tick. And then the bell was on top of it and it would just scare you to death going off every morning. And there's no sound that sends a streak up my backbone. To me, that sound of alarm clock is worse than fingernails on a chalkboard. It's worse than fingernails on a chalkboard, that bell going off on those alarm clocks. So I bought 5 of them, and I looked at them, and I had this dream in my mind of what I was going to do one day. And I had them on my dresser for over 2 years until I was able to finally leave. And I've told some of you about the story probably when I left IBM, and I told my manager and gave him my notice and all that. And a lot of the people that I worked with on the assembly line had made fun of me for years for coming in every night, coming into work and having a suit in a hanger and hanging it in the back of the assembly line. And then when it was over, getting cleaned up, putting on my suit and going and do 2 appointments, 2 or 3 times a week. And where are you going tonight, Dale? How many people you got selling vitamins? How many people you got working for you? And I don't work for them. I mean, they don't work for me. I work for them. You don't understand what I'm doing. Nobody's taking vitamins except Yul Brynner and other tree huggers. And just the ridicule, which fed me really. It fueled my determination. But I never will forget the day I got there early. I stood at the end of the line, had my suit on. I had a check for over $5,000. And I watched, I'm standing up at the end of the assembly line. I got my red tie, my red IBM tie on and my suit, and I'm watching, and I get there before everybody, and I'm watching all of them come in and just scurry around, getting ready for the day, getting all their parts and everything set up and their workbenches set up, getting ready for the bell to ring so the assembly line starts and they start their job. And I'm just sitting there with my arms crossed, just kind of watching them come in. And it was a while before someone looked up, and then they looked again, and then they thought, that looks like Dale. He's all dressed up. He's got a suit on. And then I watched him. He told somebody else, and he looked up, and he said, yeah, I think that is Dale. And before you know it, the 16 people on my line, it had spread, that's Dale. What's Dale doing? He's not at his workbench. Look. And once I'm sure they had all seen me, I walked around to each one of them. I shook their hand. I said, I've enjoyed working with you here. I realized you guys have been making fun of me for a few years, and I hadn't even cashed a check. I just showed them the check. This is my check that I made last month, part-time, which I know is more than you're working here on this assembly line making full-time, but this is my last day. Don't rot here. And I walked around to every one of them and had a similar type conversation. Some of them were good people, but some of them just lived to try to keep me in the great American box, which some of you have heard that training before. And then I walked out, and I've never had a check from a company since that day. But then when I got home that first night, Sunday night, when I started getting sick to my stomach about Monday and the week ahead of me for years, I pulled that first alarm clock out of that box, and I set it like I'd set it every morning, where it'll go off at the last possible minute, where I can just jump in the shower, jump out, and speed to work and get there, in the last 2 or 3 minutes before the time starts. The timer goes off to start the assembly line. And I set that alarm clock, that new one, like I'd done many, many times over the last 5 years. And Monday morning, that thing goes off. And I grab it, and it's ringing. And I pop out of bed, and I go out my bedroom, down the hall, down out my front door, and lived in a split level. So I go down the stairs. There's 4 or 5 stairs out my front door, out to my driveway, and just rear back, that thing still going off, and just throw it and explode it, smash it all over my driveway. And I cannot tell you, I feel the tension going out of my body as I'm telling you this story. So that was on Monday. On Monday night, I took the second alarm clock, set it 6:38 in the morning. It goes off, same thing. I get up, I grab it. I go out my bedroom, down the hall, out my front door, down the steps, out to my driveway, and boom, all over the driveway, pieces everywhere. Tuesday night, set the alarm, do the same thing. And when I get to the top of my stairs, I hear my neighbors saying, here he comes, here he comes. And a couple of my neighbors were outside waiting for me. And they thought, Dale's gone crazy, here he comes. And I just, boom, didn't say a word to them, because they were all either customers or every one of them had seen the business. and boom, all over the driveway. And I can remember, my father-in-law coming over on Wednesday during the day one time. He was wanting to check, make sure that, we had groceries or whatever, because Dale quit IBM. And I can remember me thinking, what the heck happened here? Looks like a bomb went off, because I had alarm clock pieces all over my driveway. But I did that for 5 days until I got it out of my system. But I dreamed about doing that for years, 2 years before it ever happened. So that's what I mean when I say your reasons must become your dreams. A lot of you know right now, I've got big, big dreams. And, I want to do a huge event with over 10,000 people on our team in Rupp Arena in Lexington at the Hyatt over there, down the road 5 years. And I've thought about that a lot. And I've decided recently, and it really gets me fired up, is, my family meets every Christmas, and we have a tradition that we've had for years, that my mom started, where every member, all the grandkids, all my daughters, everybody are sitting around at my parents' house, and they hand out this basket, and it's got these candles. And then my dad will usually start, he'll light his candle, and he'll talk about what he's thankful for over the past year and what he wants prayer for the following year. And then he'll light my mom's candle, and it just goes around to every member of our family, what we're thankful for, what we are praying for next year, what we want support from our family. And it's great. And it's something we've always done. And I was telling Dawn this morning, I said, my vision is 5 years from now, after the candles, I'm going to say, guys, I need your attention. And I just want you all to know that we're having a big event for our team at Rupp Arena. And I'll give them the date, what it's going to be. And I want all of you all to be there. It's real important for me. I'm going to be doing a talk called The Dream Continues, and I want you all there. And when I visualize that happening, sitting at my mom and dad's house, I can feel that. It gives me some emotion. And I've thought about, being on stage and looking out and seeing specific people in the crowd. So I practice what I'm preaching is what I'm telling you guys. And I understand for my dreams to come true, it all comes down to, well, Dale, how's that going to happen? Well, we're going to have 10,000 people in an event. And again, I don't know what that's even going to look like 5 years from now, with Corona and all that, and nobody knows, but it does, but I still get a lot of energy and emotion from it. So I'm still thinking about it. But I'm figuring I'm going to have 100,000 people on my team to have 10,000. That's 10%. And it all comes down to having the systems in place, the commitment, the dedication to help other people get what they want. So is there a difference between reasons, goals, and dreams? And when you have dreams, as I said earlier, you attach emotion to those. And emotion attached to your dreams. It's real important for you guys to, I hope that you really think about that this week. There's been, many influential thought leaders have talked about this over the years. There's something in the word dreams. And it's something most network marketers don't want to talk about, dreaming. And that's all Amway used to talk about. But again, things have changed because we've become a culture that it tends to appeal to the mediocrity in people instead of inspiring greatness. To end this session, I'm going to share some of those quotes with you that have been said by people over the years. And your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to spend some time this week and attain a vision, create a vision, a dream, an emotion attached to your reasons. Heather Tong said back in session 202 of this podcast that your why has to make you cry. That's a pretty powerful statement. And there's been a lot of people, again, that have talked about this over the years. A lot of people. I'm going to share some of those just to end this up. I hope you guys are feeling what I want you to feel, what I want you to feel for yourself. And you don't have to tell anybody else, but you need to feel it. You need to feel it. Because I can tell you every major goal that I've accomplished in my life, I accomplished it in my mind first. And I think that's a universal wisdom of the ages principle. In our private Facebook group today, I shared a song called Reach with our team members. I just said this song's always touched my soul. And that feeling is magnified today because I appreciate the uniqueness and the timing of the APL Go opportunity and the number of people we all have the opportunity to impact. Don't be afraid to dream and reach. And guys, again, I just think this is a universal principle. And just let me share with you what some thought leaders over time have actually said about this. Jim Rohn said, we are all affected by 5 things, but the most important thing that affects us is our dreams, our ability to see the future. But here's why we don't reach into the future. We're trapped either by regret of the past or the routines of the present. So make sure that the greatness pulls on you and it pulls you to your future. George Bernard Shaw said, you see things and you say, why? But I dream things that never were and say, why not? Jim Rohn also said, I wish you for a life of wealth, health, and happiness, a life which can give to yourself the gift of patience, the virtue of reason, the value of knowledge, and the influence of faith in your own ability to dream about and achieve worthy rewards. Dreams are the touchstones of character. Henry David Thoreau. You're never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. C.S. Lewis. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Eleanor Roosevelt. Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there's no path. Dream and leave a trail. Ralph Waldo Emerson. James Dean said, dream as if you will live forever and live as though you will die today. Rapper Tupac Shakur said, reality is wrong, dreams are for real. Walt Disney said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. What's Walt saying? You got to get past your fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of what somebody else is thinking. Christopher Reeve, Superman, said so many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they soon become inevitable. W. Clement Stone said, like success, failure is many things to many people. With a positive mental attitude, failure is a learning experience, a rung on the ladder, and a plateau at which to get your thoughts and your dreams in order to prepare to dream again. Sometimes you have to take a break. You have to take a breath, but you have to persist. You must persist until you succeed. Guys, it's just a universal wisdom of the ages truth. Your reasons must become your dreams. This is Dale Calvert. I hope you'll take action on what you've heard and what we've shared on this podcast. And I'll talk to you next week.
If you haven't gone over to iTunes yet and rated and left this podcast a review, what are you waiting for? At Calvert Marketing Group, we want to spend our time on the projects that we know are providing the most value for our clients and customers. You leaving us a review and feedback on iTunes is something that helps us more than you realize. And more importantly, it helps others like you find us. So if you've not taken the time to rate this podcast, please go over to iTunes and do that for us now. It will only take a couple of minutes out of your busy schedule. Work harder on yourself than you do on your business, and we will be back next week with another inspiring success story, wisdom of the ages training, or answers to your questions.